Good afternoon, Delegate Wranglers. We are back again with episode 2 of season 5 of the DW Live show, sponsored by Melia Hotels International and Inside by Melia, our good friends there. And I am very pleased this week to be joined by Dominic. Hello, Dom.
Hello, Neil. How are you?
I'm fine, Dom. I was inundated with questions about how was the pub last week for you. Was it good? Did you have a good time?
I'm sure you were. I'm going to clear this up right now. There was no pub involved. It's not unusual for there to be a pub involved, but last week there was no pub involved. There was a little gremlin in our studio, which meant we had no internet connection down here. That's why I wasn't here for the first show back, so I do apologise.
Yeah, you stick to that story, Dom. We'll believe you. But anyway,
it's nice to be back, Neil. It's nice to be back.
Yes, welcome back, Dom. It's been about 2 months since we were back on the air. Believe it or not, it's been the longest break I think we've had.
It has been the longest break since we started it, and it's really odd coming back down into the studio here for the first time in that time as well. But it's thanks to Callum, it's nice and warm.
Why has he been sitting on the seat?
Yeah.
Anyway, on with the show. We have got a fantastic show lined up today. We are going to be speaking to my good friend Alistair Turner from 8PR about what's trending in the industry at the moment. Alistair writes a report every year for IBTM, and he's just also wrote a report for our What's Trending newsletter that went out on Monday. So we'll put a link to that as well, because I think we're going to discuss it. But we're really looking forward to having Al on the show, aren't we, Dom? He's been on before.
Yeah, I was trying to remember earlier what we did last time when he was on. Can you remember?
I think it was a PR masterclass.
Oh, was it? But, okay. Well, regardless, it's going to be really good. And now's a really good time to be doing this show, because as you said, there was the report that you published the other day. The IBTM one's not out yet, is it?
I think it comes out, or I'm not sure actually. He'll tell us.
It's
already been out. Yeah.
I just glanced up. He's just going, yeah, it is out.
He's in the green room. He's in the green room having some more of the drinks that Dom brought back from the pub. So anyway, so Dom, where are we live? You can watch us on numerous ways, can't you, at the moment?
As always, we are currently live on the Facebook group where the majority of people watch. We're also on the Delegate Wranglers YouTube channel and on LinkedIn Live. But as always, please like, follow, share, subscribe, comment, do whatever you need to connect with Delegate Wranglers on each of the social media channels. Great for the group, great for spreading the word. And there's also about 65 hours of content out there covering a whole range of masterclasses, which you can only find if you go out and go looking on the social channels. So that's Facebook, that's Instagram, it's YouTube, LinkedIn and Twitter. They're out there at the Delegate Wranglers on every one of them.
Yeah, just search to Delegate Wranglers, guys. And big thank you for everybody watching. We've gotten an audience building in the Facebook group and also on YouTube. I'm looking as well, and LinkedIn. We really appreciate you joining us, guys, and this should be a great show. So before we go any further, we're just going to catch up with, as I say, we're proud to be sponsored by Melia Hotels International and Inside by Melia, and they've got a nice little funky video of the amazing inside Newcastle, which I have been to, and it's fantastic. So hopefully we're going to show you that right now. Hello, guys. So as you see, what a fantastic place is. That looks amazing, doesn't it, Dom? I mean, I've stayed there, but it is amazing.
Yeah, I saw that video for the first time earlier. Actually, they've made it really nicely and they've really showed it off. But the space in the venue looked really cool. It's on the list. I think we should go.
It's a very cool brand as well inside. I've got to say that, and I'm not contractually obliged to say that. I'm saying that as a human.
Did we do
human.
Did we do one of the socials at at one of their hotels?
Yeah, we did Manchester.
Oh, it was Manchester that we did. I thought so.
Yeah, Manchester.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's very cool as well.
Yeah, really cool space.
Yeah, they are very cool. Anyway, on with the show. So, without any further ado, I think I will introduce Alistair. As I say, I've known Alistair for quite a while now. We work together on a lot of things. How are you, Al? You okay?
Yeah, I'm really good, Neil. Thanks for inviting me back. It's much appreciated and a real honor, man.
Back, yeah, he's in the league table now. Is this second or third? It could even be third time on.
I think it's just second.
No,
I think it's just second. You're probably loitering
second
behind other people, but for this one, it's just the second. And you're right. It was a PR masterclass last time.
It was. Okay.
There you go. What a brain. anyway, Al. So we're really excited to hear about all the things you're going to talk to us about, all the the latest trends and what's going on in the events industry. And I know this is linked by some of the things that you've written about in the IBTM. But obviously, there's some new things that have developed since then. Including what you wrote about in our newsletter, which was really funny, really funny, and really interesting the way you put it. I really liked it. So over to you.
Yeah, not at all, man. And I remember there's a film director called Christopher Nolan, who I really like. And what he always says is the film isn't finished until you've sent it off into the world and then received stuff back. And I think I'm going to equate my report to one of the Christopher Nolan's films. Yeah, that's never been done before. But the fact is true. This report is never done. It's always in beta. I'm always really interested in hearing what people say. And yeah, you're right. I gave him a thumbs up because we launched it in Spain at IBTM in December. Yeah. So it's still brand new into the world. And since then, even though it's been barely 2 months, there's more to update. There's more to talk about around it. And also, when you get comments and thoughts from other people within the industry, your own opinions are tweaked and your own curiosities are raised. And I want to sort of talk about some of that as well through the article. But yeah, every sort of every October, September, I disappear from family life and I write this report, and that's why it means so much to me. And what we try and do within the report is that we look at the world. We look at the world of meetings and events, and we look at all the trends that are affecting consumers, and we try and merge them into something around what could the future look like. Now, to many people, this is pointing out the blindingly obvious, right? Trends, we all know, things like sustainability, wellness, DE&I, these are not new trends. But what I want to do today is kind of try and understand the dynamics of those trends, why they're changing, and what happens when they kind of converge against each other. And what does that mean when we're organizing our event tomorrow, the next day, and next week, and even next year as well? So this is kind of what my background is, and I'm hoping that's what we'll try and get out today.
Sounds good.
Good man. So let's start with, for me, the mother of all trends, the one that I think is the most serious and the most important and the most detrimental to our world, especially ours within the meetings and events industry, that's happening at the moment. And look, I'm not going to tell anyone that sustainability is new. Sustainability is a 20-year-old trend at least. But what I'm really interested in is in the dynamics of it. Now, we should have a heightened antenna in the UK events industry, because we were really privileged, I felt, to be holding the COP conference up in Glasgow at the SEC in November. We've seen what happens when sustainability grows up the agenda, and this is not going to end in 2022. It's going to continue to go bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think the reason why we should have a heightened awareness of it is this is directly impacting not only the businesses that pay and put on our events, but the consumers that are walking into them as well. The way I sort of synthesize my thoughts here is it's about citizens being holding their governments to account. It's about consumers holding brands to account. It's about employees holding businesses to account. It's about shareholders holding business owners to account. There's a huge amount of accountability being pushed up that's not going to be able to be pushed back away or dodged as we go through. So we need to understand that our clients care about this stuff, and anyone that's working in brand events at the moment doesn't need me to tell you that this is really important. From a consumer point of view, I think it's really interesting as well, because one of the things that came out of COP, I don't know whether you guys felt it, but certainly I was looking on Twitter feeds continuously, watching over there, is this need for action. What about action? Let's not talk. We need some action. And I think if we were going to be really critical, and sometimes I have to be towards our own industry, we'd talk a really, really good game. And that's great, and that's important. But we need to act a really, really good game. There are citizen journalists everywhere. There are a new generation of delegates ready to find out the minutiae of the packaging that their sandwiches were wrapped in this morning. And if we are falling short in any one of those expectations, then we're going to get called to account on that. And we need to be really, really hyperly alert to that as well. Hi,
I was just going to say we had Joe on the show last week, who was, really, and I know you work with Joe and the team at Align Venue. They take that really seriously, don't they, about food waste as well, and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, and I think what I loved about Joe's presentation last week, and what I like about what that business is doing in its entirety, is its understanding that as meetings and events professionals, we have not only a responsibility and an accountability, but we also have power. We are starting to understand that we have amazing influence to affect change by doing things on a micro level for macro amounts of people. And I do think Align Venue Portfolio are one of some of the business that are really leading the way on that and showing people how to take action. Do you think though that we're a little bit more guilty of talking about what we're going to do rather than talking about what we've done? Yeah, I think you're right, and I think there's probably two reasons there. One is that we haven't done it yet, and what we've done, and I've listed a few associations that I think really are showing a lot of care for this. ICE, JMIC, PCMA in the US. All of those associations are talking about roadmaps and mechanics and things like that. And you probably add people like Isla on there, Positive Impact, people like that as well, that are showing the mechanics around to do it. But I'm not sure how many people have come out the other end. And I think that in a way, I think that's okay. I think there's a lot of people are saying, look, we're on the journey. And I don't think anyone's ever going to profess to being completed that journey. Not even people who I think like Align Venue Portfolio, I think are doing amazing work here, right? They're saying, God, we're still at the beginning and we're ahead of most people. Yeah. But I think that there is also this idea of tangible action, this idea. And I think consumers are really sitting there going to go, okay, what are you actually doing right here, right now? What are the big things that are happening? One of the things I keep on thinking about was when Tottenham Hotspur did the first carbon neutral Premiership game. These are massive signals. So not just delegates and event organizers and people in our group. That's public knowledge stuff, brave public knowledge stuff that's happening as well. And I think there's something powerful and groundbreaking about that. But again, I think what's really exciting to me is it's starting in this room that we're in at the moment with our Delegate Wrangler community. I think the last thing I'd say is a lot of people feel threatened by sustainability in our industry because we know that ours is one of the industries that is perhaps more guilty of most than creating waste. And I think what we're trying to do is trying to give an option. The idea is that you either have an event or you don't. And I've kind of thought about this a long time, spoken to a lot of actually delegates as well as event organizers. And the big thing for me here is it's about waste. No one minds spending something. People hate wasting something. So what they're saying is, don't waste my time. Don't fly me to the other side of the world and give me rubbish. Don't waste my time. Give me quality. Don't waste resources doing so. Don't build me massive dramatic sets that aren't reusable just to impress me. Give me great content. That'll do me fine. And don't waste my money either. So as long as I think we've got those, don't waste my time, don't waste resources, and don't waste my money, I think events are absolutely fine. We're future-proof. We're absolutely fine. The moment we start straying into waste in any one of those three areas, I think we've got a real big problem, you know?
It's interesting though, because I think if the virtual world that we lived in for the best part of 18 months, and I'm going to say that it's largely gone now, not completely and not long term, but the only living in the virtual world taught us the value of not wasting time. And I think that you just said about flying speakers across to the other side of the world, we found ways to not do that. So it's taught us all a valuable lesson, but now we've got to go and actually still continue to apply that to the event world that we now move into, or that we have moved into.
Yeah. I really agree with you there, Dom, because I think, again, it's this idea of we've been shown how to do things in a different way, and no one forgives someone that's been shown how to do it in a different way, but still returns back to the old habit, you know. And this is where I feel like I've got in my mind, I don't know whether I bet your audience does, I'm sure you guys do too as well, this sort of new consumer with this heightened antennae because of COP, because of the shutdown, that's sort of almost eyeing everything. They're looking under the carpets. They're looking through the guidebooks. They're searching for moments of imperfection and holding you to account. And I think we've got to feel that in our industry as well. But but I know, I think sustainability is really visible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was a case of, you know, not realizing until you actually were in those situations, exactly what Don was saying, until, you know, we all knew, okay, should we be flying somebody 10-hour flight to do a 2-hour presentation? You know, but until we actually do it and physically do it and try something, only then do you really realize, whoa, we can do this. It was always the elephant in the room. I say this all the time, but we realized we could do it. But it's not only for the time that you're getting back, it's for the carbon neutral effect, for the you know, so many different reasons. That's not to say, you know, I'm looking forward to real events coming back, but I do think they will be different. I do think we'll have a different slant on it now. Different decisions will be made.
I think it's a horses for courses, surely, though, isn't it? Because actually, yes, it did teach us that we could do it, but actually, in a lot of instances, it taught us that we could do some things better. So you could get a better speaker, you could save the travel, you could save the money, you could reduce the carbon footprint of that event. Not to say it's a catch-all for everything, but it showed us that it could be done and could be done better.
Different mindset. I've got a different mindset while we're approaching it. How we're approaching things now.
I love the ask. I'll just ask the question why. You know, sometimes, isn't it funny? How often? Why don't we ask that question? Why are we doing this? You know, because you know what, the answer could be fine. Maybe the value, the intrinsic value of that person being in the room after flying across the air has enough value to justify it. That's great, and I think audiences will forgive that. They really will.
Yeah.
What they won't like is if the question wasn't asked in the first place and the answer's wrong, you know. So I think that's what's great. And I must say again, you know, I won't keep on talking about Joe's presentation last week, but one of the things she showed was data. She gave us the data. She told us that this is what people are feeling right now. She told us data in terms of the research that business has done, not just what the organizers were thinking or the MDs, but the FDs as well. They're backing up with money. So we're seeing proper economics pushing these questions as well. And that's what I think you can't ignore the money. You know, you can ignore many things. You can't ignore the money, you know?
Absolutely. Al.
So I wanted to go to security next, if that's okay with you guys, because look, I think security is again a major issue that there's so many big trends, you know, pandemics and sustainability and some of the other ones that I'm going to come to, but security sits underneath there and it's quite pernicious. And I think it's worth sort of just breaking down what that can kind of look like for us as event organizers. And the way that we did it in the report is we broke it down between physical safety. And let's remember, there's a lot of things going on in the world that are going to, the dynamics are changing towards the physical safety of our delegates and the need for us to look after them. Not least, they're coming out of their offices more, right? So this is back on the table now, physical safety. Then we've got in information data security, and God, I don't need to tell anyone on this call how important, how much heightened data we're now getting about our delegates and how important that data is. And they care about data security as well. So we've got to start thinking about that really seriously. And this goes beyond GDPR, right? This is far beyond that. We're talking about AI algorithms, hyper-personalization. We're talking about lots of things that are putting our delegates' data on the table, so to speak. Then we're talking about environmental disruption as well. You know, this is a picture in the background from something that happened in Canada with, you know, less than a week's notice. Connected to sustainability and environmental impacts. This is happening, guys. It's not just ice clouds every 25 years. This is happening on a genuine, continual basis around the world and in this country as well. And of course, disease. And I think the message is through now that we are in the age of the pandemic. We haven't just passed on one pandemic and we can all carry on. We're now in the age of the pandemic, so we need to be aware that these things are happening. So I think with this one, I just wanted to nail down where we see those 4 key areas, you know?
Al, I was just going to say, I think there's another one probably you can add to that as well. Kind of mental health and mental well-being, you know, feeling safe. You can go to events now. I think events are a lot more caring and a lot more, you know, they'll have like quiet zones for people to relax in and that kind of thing. I think that's being looked at as well.
Yeah, I think, you know what, you're absolutely right. I think you're right. There's the physical safety, but there's also the emotional safety of people as well. Actually, it's something I'll touch on, but you're right. I think,
right.
Do you know, it's something we were talking about earlier on. Sorry, you've made a really serious point. I'm going to turn it into a bit of a joke, which is if you want anything, someone's once said to me, if you want anything done by event organizer, stick it on the risk assessment. And I quite like the way that went. I like this idea of basically pressuring them, but actually all of these things are on the risk assessment. So actually, why isn't wellness? Why isn't mental health? Because actually it does stand as a threat. It's got threat potential. It's not, you know, it's not something.
It's so much more heightened, isn't it? Now it's so much more heightened. You know, we're much more aware of it. This, you know, for the last 2 years. Yeah. So I think it's probably one that will force its way onto kind of risk assessments and things like that. Maybe.
I think you're right. Well, we'll TM that one, Neil. I believe I may well be stealing that idea off you very shortly. No one's going to see this slide different again. But
no, it's only recorded for millions of people to see. No one will know.
Exactly. Yeah, true. Okay. I might have to backdate it or something like that. No, I've admitted. I'm happy to pass on the trademarks of the people that help, and there are many. Hey, look, one of the things I wanted to address around this as well is finance as well. For some reason, because this trends report, I think we do quite a lot around the financial industries, and we talk about, you know, big data and global economics and how it affects our industry and the industries that serve us. So I seem to sort of talk about money a lot, and I hope you forgive me for it, but it kind of makes the world go round still, I'm afraid. And one of the things that I'm really, really interested in is as an industry, our future. What does this all look like? Because one of the things that I think has been really, really fascinating to understand about our industry at the moment is the risk versus incentive equation. Now, most people would probably admit that setting up a new event at any time is a very, very risky business. Yeah. And this idea that around the idea of pandemics and things like that, then that risk equation, that balance is getting more and more against the creation of new, or even taking risks within the event, fiscal risks to grow and prosper. And that concerns me as someone who doesn't organize events, but commentates on events and is heavily involved in the events industry from a data point of view. I always want to see more incentive for creativity than more disincentive around risk. And I think one of the big conversations that has to happen about this security conversation is 4 major risk events, 5 now. Neil's added on the mental health safety in there as well, all pushing us away from an incentive towards doing new things and good things. And we have to work as an industry to try and rebalance that, because a lot of these things aren't going away. Most of them aren't. And I'm really interested about how business owners and business leaders can start looking to redress that. And that's about hybrid and some of the stuff we've just talked about already. That's about challenging new delegates and doing things in new different ways. But I do think one of the things that stands at the fundamental pivot of our industry is there enough incentive to do things the right way and to encourage more creativity into the industry? So that's something. It's not a solution I have, but it's something I think we should all look at.
Do you think, Al? Do you think that that's something that the kind of government should assist with in terms of, you know, tax breaks or some kind of support or some kind of, you know, is there anything that we should be lobbying government for, or maybe that is already being done? I don't know.
I think there's a lot of good work being done around the government. Do you know where I think this starts? It's the partnership between the people that pay for events and the people that execute the events. I think there has to be more partnership. I think, you know, I probably won't make any friends from any of my clients. I work with a lot of venues. Venues have to meet some of the organizers halfway. And by the way, that works the other way too as well. But there has to be this idea of how can we share risk? How can we offset? How can we bring hybrid or technology into the conversation in a way that doesn't increase risk, but actually de-risks events? How can we manage that process in a way that encourages events to happen and to give them a chance of survival? And it's not. It was always on a knife's edge, in my view, before the pandemic. And now that dial has just moved that little bit too far post-pandemic afterwards. So I do think a lot of this goes down to, luckily, something that we're all really, really bloody good at, which is having really successful partnerships with each other in an industry, right? So luckily they're all there. But I think some of those historic ways of working perhaps needs to be challenged, you know?
Yeah, Dom, I just see you there. I think Anika's left a comment in the chat. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up at an appropriate moment. She says, I completely agree that sustainability is thinking about why we're doing certain things in events, e.g. swag. Is it really needed? Can't we provide an experience instead of physical item to give away?
Oh, don't waste resources, you know? How many times have you been given something you never wanted in the first place, only to put it in the bin? You know, that straight run from straight through to me to the bin, you might as well, it's like leafleting on the street, you know? Wow, you know, I must say, I mean, I love events. I really do. I love, you know, us at our best is unstoppable. Us at our worst, you really want to throw something.
If you're getting judged for the quality of the merch on your stand and not the content or your messaging, you got a problem.
Exactly. You need to rethink stuff as well.
You know what though? I do feel we are moving forward on this. You know, I think back to the pharmaceutical events I used to do, and they were ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
10 years ago.
I came from medical devices and pharma from years and years back. I did it for 8-10 years, and it was just ridiculous. When I look back now to what we gave away, the stress relievers, the squeezy things, the endless amounts of pens, it was ridiculous. All single-use plastic.
Yeah. One of the things, you know, it's interesting you mentioned government. One of the things that I think that I would like to see over the next 12 months is actually what I've seen hints at, and also there's actually a bit more than hints, is accountability being put into the hands of event organizers.
Absolutely.
We're the people that best know it. MDs don't know how to run stands. FDs do not know how to create experiences.
Push back. Push back.
Absolutely.
You can push back with your clients, you know, and tell them. Yeah. But I think what we need, I know we're going back to the sustainability side. What we need though is like exactly what Joe said. We need data. We need data so that we can push back with authority and say, listen, if we're doing this, we're going to do that, you know. And I think if you do push back, you need to then use it as a narrative. Yeah. You know, the narrative is we've gone, you know, we're not doing that anymore. We used to, we're not anymore. We're moving forward. So I think it's all about developing the story, what you can actually say to your clients.
And we're taking people with us. And look, you know what, just address to that, you know, that last stat on this slide, which is 35.5% of event organizers have seen security related costs go up, right? And I haven't got a stat for sustainability, but let's not be surprised if it's possibly around that sort of number as well. So all of this is going up, you know, and there's always a question at the end of this presentation, which is, this is all very well, Al, but who's going to pay for it? But the reality is, as long as it's in our hands, and I think we can do this now, I believe in it strongly enough, then we can argue those cases and take people with us as well. And that to me is really exciting, you know?
Yeah.
So guys, keep your questions coming through to us on LinkedIn or YouTube and also on the group. We'd love to hear you. They don't have to be questions. They can be comments or things that, you know, your take on it as well.
Yeah, I've just seen Natalie commented, as event organisers, we need to educate sponsors and exhibitors at our event. You're absolutely right. Can I just jump in and say a couple of hellos? I'll say hello to Natalie if she's there. Swati Sharma, I've just seen, has popped up. Anika, she was late, but she did make it. Ed Noble, thanks for watching. And there was someone else, Sundeep. I saw Joe Kenny. There were a couple of others as well. But say hi, let us know where you're watching, and we will try and give you a little bit of a shout out in a moment.
And we've also got quite a few people watching on LinkedIn as well. Paul Starsky, Janice, Johanna, Ben, Jody, Gemma, Darren, loads of people watching. Hi, Sarah from the DW team.
It doesn't. It doesn't show me who is watching on LinkedIn or YouTube. Actually, I can just see that people are. So I'm glad you can see them.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. So keep your questions coming.
That's great, and it's nice to hear, see some familiar names as well there. So that's awesome. Thanks for
We've got our regulars, Al.
Yeah, no, and what lovely folk they are as well too. So hello to everyone, by the way. Okay. So let's talk about wellness. Neil, you touched on this, and rightly so. And I want to split this into two. I want to split this into the delegates and us, event professionals, and I think it's important to do both. But first of all, there's this there's a report in a very, very unhelpfully named source called Scientific Reports, but there's a report that looked at the incidence of mental health around the world, and it was done in 38 countries, around 150,000 people, and these are the statistics that we're looking at in terms of what people are dealing with at the moment. So you've got everything from half psychological stress to a quarter around depression, anxiety, this word, which I don't think is too dramatic, which is PTSD, stress and sleep disorders as well. That is out there. It's uncontroversial. It's empirical. It's not just hype. This idea that we have a tsunami of mental health issues coming off the back of this pandemic is true. It's a fact. And it's going to be walking into our events, our conference halls, and our worlds all year, and probably for the next year as well. And again, I don't want to preach to the converted. Event organizers know this. But going back to what you were saying, Neil, this idea of us taking that responsibility is an incredibly powerful thing we can all do, and that we're really, really good at. I was talking to Laura, who's again graced this fine forum from Stress Matters.
She's on next week, on the show next week as well.
And she'll do this better than anyone. But what we need to know is that this is coming at us. And I think if we're going to create great environments for people and amazing experiences, then we have to understand not how we want to communicate to them, but how they feel as they walk into our rooms. Did I have a delayed flight? Did I have a delayed train? Have I seen my family recently? How early did I get up? Am I on a health kick? All of those sort of things. Let's ask those questions. Do I just feel crap today? And if we can start answering those questions, that'd be great.
You know what, Al, as well, I think as well, when you're on a registration desk or, welcoming people into your event, you do have a responsibility to make them feel warm and welcome and like at ease, rather than being really formal and telling them what they can't do and can't, it's such a subtle thing, but it's the moment from somebody walking up to you with a nice friendly smile, hello, and another person just kind of shaking your hand. These are the differences that can make all the difference to just how you initially get to start the event, if you know what I mean. It's so easy as well.
I heard a brilliant phrase the other day, which I really, really buy into, and I want to hear more from these guys that they're talking about, which is they called it the decommoditization of delegates. So it's this idea that delegate is something that you bring into a room with the impression of stuffing data, information, loyalty, fact, content as humanly possible, and then throwing them back out again. Sorry, that's cartoonish and a bit dramatic, but sometimes we do that. We're trying to sit there, we need to impart as much as possible into that person and then get them onto the next guy as possible, when sometimes we just need to slow that down, take some time with them, allow them to decompress, give them room, allow their anxieties to come through so that then they can focus on what we've got to talk to them about, and then hear them when they talk to us as well,
Yeah.
And attached to that, you can't look after someone else unless you're looking after yourself properly as well. And there's a huge amount of pressure on event professionals. And again, I was really addicted to this subject, because I do feel with people like Eventwell, we talked about Laura, we've really got hold of this as an industry. And I think the work and the attitude towards this particular trend has been incredibly good from our industry. We've really seek to understand it. And I guess one of the things that I wanted to sort of set down on paper here is this idea that we know that event organizers, by their very personality, the sort of things that make us want to be event organizers, are more susceptible for stress. We love the high, we get the low. On one side of the coin, there's the high, on the other side is the low, which means we are heightened to be more susceptible to stress. That's why the Forbes article pointed at event organizers. That's why the historical data shows that we have issues around wellness. Okay, so let's look at the last 2 years for the average event professional. Either loss of employment or knowing good friends, very, very close friends that have lost employment, massive absence for work. So this idea that if you live to do events and that's taken out of you, then you lose some huge purpose there. Yep. There's a massive collapse in infrastructure around you, whether that's your business, your industry, the world around you. That can be hugely detrimental and unnerving. Then you've got your switch of day-to-day roles and responsibilities. No one who left university in 2018 thought that they would be akin to production designers on film sets, stream experts and digital experts. They thought that they were in a detail and rigor and content industry, and they're not. They're in a media industry as well, without the training and the capacity around that as well. And if you load just those 4 items onto the average event professional, again, you know that slide beforehand, I can imagine the event professionals are a large proportion of what that is. And we have to, and it's great that there's business out there that are dealing with that, because Christ, this is a big one for us.
Absolutely. You know, and as somebody who's a former, you know, event professional, 20 years, what you live for in events is the reward of the event going well. So it's like the reason it's the way I always put it is, if you really care, you know, if you really care about your events and want to make them go well, you are going to get a certain level of stress, and that goes with the territory. But the payoff of that stress is, bang, you've done the event and it's amazing. And then the feeling that you get after it. Now, suddenly all that's taken away from you. You become a bit meh, you know, because you're not having that lows and highs and things. You're not having that journey. Yeah. So I can totally understand why just not doing your job for 2 years can have an effect on people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
definitely.
And let's forget, you go into events to organize events. You don't go in for it for the money. You don't go into it for, you know, the great pension plans and the you know, the corporate love. You go in because
easy life.
You know, if you wanted to do that other stuff, you'd go and work hopefully in a great big bank, because let's face it, our industry is very, very qualified, right? We can do lots of things. We choose to do this. You take it away from us, we're everywhere. Absolutely. Now look, here's a point here. Oh, sorry, Dom. Did I cut across you?
No, it's fine. I just don't want to lose track of. There's loads of comments coming in, particularly on Facebook. If you want to get involved in the conversation, Facebook is where it's mostly happening. I've not seen anything on LinkedIn or YouTube yet. I'm just going to go back a couple of things. So Ed Noble, reference to an earlier part of the conversation, said, "I hate to play devil's advocate here, but we need to. But there needs to be a shift from attendees' attitude also." Swag also attracts attention and footfall, so maybe swag needs to be more thoughtful in terms of functionality and sustainability. It's a really good point.
We are seeing that. We are seeing that as well.
I did say to him, devil's advocate comments are always welcome.
Always welcome.
Always welcome. Anika said, mental health and well-being is also an element of sustainability. She then also commented, I love there are quiet zones available now at events. You never know what battles others are fighting. And Ed replied to that with, that needs to include organisers and agency staff. I could basically read out a conversation which is happening on Facebook, but I'm only doing that. Yeah, you go this time.
This happens a lot during my presentations, I must say.
Send people to the pub.
You know what? And I think one of the things I quite liked about that is, you know, kind of what I said at the beginning is this idea of convergence. We have to see these things as bouncing off each other. These are all isolated trends in the wider world.
Yeah,
but within our industry, they are bouncing all around us. And in a funny sort of way, attacking each one doesn't help. You have to have to do them all. And that way you can make real change as well. But you know, absolutely. I take it.
Sure.
I mean, here's a wider point as well, and it's something that only I can say because I'm not an event organizer, but I'm someone who cares deeply within the events industry, and that's, we have to look at the long-term sustainability of our industry, because at the moment I've got a kid who's 13 and one who's 10, and I'm not telling him to get trained up to go into the events industry at the moment, despite what a great industry it is. And I don't know how many other people are turning around to their university leaving kids and saying, whoa, you don't really want to be in that industry at the moment. That's not where you want to be. And I think there is a real emphasis on us as an industry to make sure that we're fit for purpose for the best talent. We don't want to lose it to advertising. We don't want to lose it to marketing. We don't want to lose it to Amazon delivery drivers. Thank you very much. We don't want to lose it into those worlds because there's more stability there. We want to